IVM.
Hey, so what do you think Jishnu, Dinkar and I have in common? Well, it's all that we are solid underachievers. But if you like the opposite, which is that of a superachiever, then you should definitely check out the Vishal Gondal Show, where Vishal, the host who I just named, and is also in the title of the show, The Vishal Gondal Show. So, if you're an achiever and would like to become a superachiever, then you should probably check out the Vishal Gondal Show. You can catch all these episodes and more on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hello and welcome to the Geek Fruit Podcast. My name is Dinkar and with me I have the master of jugglers, Jishnu Guha. Hey Jishnu.
Oh.
Master of jugglers.
I heard juggalos again.
I explained what a juggler... Did you go and look up jugglers after I explained what they were to you?
Hell no.
No?
Because it sounded scary.
They're a little scary actually. Yeah. Have you ever heard that Insane Clown Posse song called Miracles?
Nope.
I feel like I went into it last time. Okay, so Insane Clown Posse is a duo that dresses in clown makeup. Hence their fans, who are the jugglers, also dress in clown makeup. But they went viral, they were always really popular, but they went really popular on the mainstream internet a couple of years ago because they had a song called Miracles, which was supposed to be about celebrating life, but also they're the Insane Clown Posse, so it's a really aggressive song. So there's literally lines in the song like, magnets, how do they fucking work? So that's who you were a master of back then. But now you're the master of jugglers because you juggle like so many things. You just put out an album. You're doing the Geek Fruit Podcast.
But if I'm the master of jugglers, does that mean jugglers?
Yes.
Does it mean I'm juggling jugglers?
You're the master juggler, basically. So
not master of jugglers, as opposed to like a master of like flaming plates.
Yes. No.
You know?
What? Why would you be a master of flaming plates?
No, master of juggling flaming plates.
You are that as well. You can't become the master of jugglers without being a master juggler. The off means you're the master of everyone who is a juggler. So if a juggler wants to do something, they have to write a formal email to you. But also, you only got to that station by being a master juggler. So like flaming plates, sure. Flaming tires, sure. Flaming anything really. You can juggle it, I assume. I don't know why I'm explaining your mythology to you.
No, please go on, please.
Well, that's about it. You're the master of jugglers. It's honestly not that interesting. Were you into juggling?
Not in the slightest.
Neither am I. I find it entertaining in the sense that, like, when I see it on TV or whatever, I go like, I guess he's juggling. Have you ever tried to juggle yourself?
I have.
And how good are you at it?
No.
Literally no?
Nope.
Zero? Nothing?
Nope.
Even three little balls.
Nope.
I was hanging out with a friend of mine once who just randomly started juggling.
This is going nowhere fast.
It's a personal story.
Stop.
Let's get to know each other, Jishnu.
Nobody gives a damn.
Let's move on. Fine. So, let's move on from that to something no one else gives a damn about, which is a tradition on the show for the newer listeners, is that when Jishnu and I do an episode together, we talk about one of our favorite bands, U2. Now, a common acquaintance of ours, Tejas Menon, has been putting out this salacious rumor that U2 will come to India. Do we have any proof of the fact?
In that I have heard it from another source.
What?
That is equally as ambiguous with the details.
A reliable source? Someone who might know things?
Yeah.
Okay.
But just as much in the vein as, our man Menon might know things as well. So it's like, okay.
I heard U2's coming to India?
Yeah. Like he heard a thing and he told me the thing. Somebody else also said, hey, I heard another thing. I was like, wow, it's the same thing. But,
so they heard from the same source?
No, that's the thing.
Rumors like this have gone around before,
Exactly.
Yeah,
but
like plenty of times.
Just the fact that two people said the same thing is equally baseless. But at least two people said the same thing.
Yes.
So now I'm like 2% more inclined.
There was a time when
they are going to be in Asia at the end of the year.
In December.
And
they'll be in Singapore.
That's when the word is the finishing up Japan, the finishing up Australia, and then Japan and Singapore and stuff. So they're in the hood.
Singapore's pretty close to here.
They're in the area. They added last minute dates to some of those cities as well. So they're in the market. It's not impossible. If it had to happen, I guess now is a good time. Plus, I think it actually could because of the tour that they're doing. Because when I first heard about it, like a month ago when they just mentioned it, they weren't doing anything at the time. Or at least I didn't realize they were doing anything because there isn't an album for them to be touring. They're
Yes.
doing their Joshua Tree.
They're continuing it. I thought they were done and dusted with that.
Exactly, right?
They just brought it up
They
again.
just brought it back up again.
Yeah.
The fact that they're doing a random, okay, let's play that latter half of the tour that we finished a year ago. It's like, wait,
Yeah.
but I thought we did that Joshua Tree tour.
Exactly. It's not even the 40th anniversary anymore.
Yeah, it isn't.
Which
So-
is what this was in celebration
so
of.
I just see it as like, hey, these guys want to like make a little money on the side for whatever reason, and so they feel like,
That's not enough, man.
yeah, so they just feel like playing the shows in Asia, and we are in Asia.
Is
so
it
why
not
not?
true that...
And it's a greatest hits tour, which is
It's a greatest
which
hits
makes it
tour.
an easy sell.
Yeah.
I would have said if this was like leg 1 or leg 2 of a new album, they wouldn't be going to new countries, let alone
Yeah,
cities.
definitely.
But the fact that it's a greatest hits tour, it's a safe tour. So like, hey, we don't know if we have fans in India. Let's just go and bust out the hits.
Everyone knows with or without you.
Exactly,
Whatever.
and it's on the album. So like, hey, cool, we can play that
Jeez.
song and it's safe.
Isn't Adam the one who's pretty into Hindu spirituality and stuff, right?
That
I know he's come
very
to
plausible.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
know he's been to India,
Oh.
Adam, and done like he's gone to some sort of festival or pilgrimage or something. He's done
Of
like
course
he's
he
done the
has.
Beatles thing.
Right.
So it's still possible. Like
So
maybe
did,
they'll be in Singapore.
So did Big Willie Smith.
Big Willie Smith did like a pilgrimage thing.
Not a pilgrimage thing, but he did the thing on the Ganges. And
He did a thing on the Ganges.
Yeah, you know,
What did he do on the Ganges?
sitting by the Ganges, smiling at the camera with, you know, people around him,
Okay.
flowers and stuff. And
I mean, Big Willie keeps coming to India now anyway.
Yeah.
He's been here like twice in the last year.
Yeah.
Is there any band you'd really like to see come here?
many.
Yeah, many, right? But I feel like
Who do you not want to see? Like, if they came,
Okay,
like, I'm pissed. Why are they here?
I haven't seen U2 live yet. You
Yeah.
have seen U2 live.
Uh-huh.
Do you think watching them in India would be more special than the other show you watched?
I was thinking about that. I mean, it would be...
The fact that you could just take a cab ride over, I mean, you'd have to take a cab ride at some point anyway,
Yeah.
but the fact that it's in your backyard,
Yeah, I would... I mean,
that you can take a rickshaw home after the gig.
it would be... I would be just more curious from the perspective of having seen it before. And, like, obviously, you and I are now at this point where, like, when we watch a live concert video, we can go like, oh, there's that move.
Yeah.
There's that thing he does a million times.
We
Like,
know the things
we're like,
they
oh,
do.
he's not improvising. It looks like he's improvising, but he said that line a million times.
Yeah.
So I'd be curious to see how they play to a new crowd. I'd be very excited to see what they pull out from their dictionary. I'd like to think I know that dictionary pretty well at this point. So I'd be seeing as how all the shows we get to see on the internet, like all documented shows, are all on like safe home turf. They're all in the States. They're
That's
all
true.
in European cities where they frequently play. So it's like, yeah, we know they have a huge crowd following there. We know that they've been there a million times, so they feel at home and they keep saying it, you know, we're home.
Yeah.
No matter where they are, they're like, we're home.
We're home.
Like, damn, yo, the area code is huge.
Yeah.
So I'd be curious to see how they do at a new audience.
I'd be curious to see where they'd go, because I'm assuming the show would be either in Mumbai or I doubt it'll be in
Bombay,
Delhi.
you know?
It's going to be Bombay or Bangalore, right?
Yeah.
So what sort of local tourism would they do?
Like that.
Yeah, like Bono going to
they
a
would
vada
do-
pav stall or something.
No, I mean, they would do the usual the usual stuff that people do. I mean, like, what did, like, you know, Bieber do when he came here? Like
I'm guessing he stayed in his hotel room.
right, and he got
Yeah.
a massage. But, like,
Probably.
remember that nonsense with his tech rider?
No, what?
He had like, they released, if not all of it, like a part of it, and it was humongous and, like, well over the top and
Right.
nonsense. I'm sure there's a similar. But, I mean, depending on scheduling and stuff, why are people still listening to this?
Okay, I'll tell you what the connection is. We're
Yeah.
talking about music,
Oh,
and
wow.
Today we're discussing a director
That
who's
was
got
not the worst segue we've
Yeah.
ever done. Well done.
And has Edgar Wright ever used a U2 song in his movies?
That's a
By the
great
way, we're talking
question.
about Edgar Wright.
Not that I know of.
Yeah, not that I know
don't
of
think so.
either. But then he leans towards slightly more esoteric sort of choices, right? It's not
For the
like
most part.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
He'll throw in a Queen now and again.
Yes, he's used a lot of Queen.
I'm jumping the gun for a second.
Jump it.
I was.
You are
I
the
really
master
enjoyed.
jumper.
I really enjoyed Baby Driver. I didn't think it was worth all the hype it was getting, but I was like, hey, this is a solid movie,
Yes, you skipped to the end of the episode.
right? But then the fact that it ended with the song Baby Driver, which is a relatively deepish cut
Yeah.
from
Simon
the
and
Simon
Garfunkel.
Garfunkel repertoire. I was like,
Yeah.
that made, like, it warmed my heart. I was
Yeah.
like, that's why you call that movie this? Amazing. And I thought that was a really solid, like, attention to detail
Yeah.
with the whole thing, and like lyrically that song as well sits with that movie and everything. So that was just like,
So Baby Driver
It's
came
great.
out about the same, almost exactly the same time as Guardians of the Galaxy 2, correct?
yes,
And there was this big back and forth between James Gunn and Edgar Wright where they were sharing the soundtracks they were using with each other because they wanted to be sure they didn't overlap because they knew they had such similar tastes and styles
Right.
that it was very likely to happen. And apparently it somehow didn't.
There are a lot
but
of songs in the world.
Edgar Wright is, again, pretty famous for picking his songs and then pretty much like writing scripts according to that. So like
yeah.
Baby Driver, for example, all the soundtrack drops were already written into the script, which is not how it typically works.
right.
But
But same with James Gunn.
same with James Gunn, exactly. Now, let's get back to the starting and talk about Edgar Wright from scratch.
There once was a man
There once was a man
from
named Edgar,
Nantucket. Oh no, okay, sorry.
and he was right about stuff. Anyway, what is the first Edgar Wright movie you saw?
I think Hot Fuzz actually.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't see the Cornetto saga, whatever you want to call it, universe in sequence. I went Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead,
World's End.
World's End, and then yeah.
So, what was the general buzz about him? Because I remember when Shaun of the Dead came out, it was being talked about as this really unusually funny movie, and it was a zom-com, right?
You saw it when it came out when it was relevant?
Yes, relatively close to it. I don't think I watched it in theaters. No, I definitely didn't watch it in theaters, but it was a sort of movie that people were talking about, like, man, Shaun of the Dead is hilarious, and I was like, sure, I'll check it out. And I watched it, and I feel like I was in school at that point.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, you would have been.
Yeah, so I noticed Simon Pegg, who was hilarious, but I never really thought to look into who the director was or anything, But I do remember being pretty impressed by how stylish that movie was. And then later, I went back and watched Spaced, which is, and Spaced I really
It's like
liked.
his introduction to the crew, basically. That would become his
Yes.
18.
So I believe the story was that Edgar Wright has been he's been one of those classic I want to be a filmmaker guys from his childhood, right?
Yeah, you
so
can
he
tell.
was the sort who just go out and make all sorts of movies anyway. So he made this movie called A Fistful of Dollars or something like that, which was like his student picture that got into a couple of festivals and stuff. And he started gaining some notoriety off that. And he made something else, and basically Simon Pegg and Jessica Hines reached out to him to direct Spaced, which was the sitcom that they were writing together. And I'd heard a lot about Spaced as being Simon Pegg's origin story because he was kind of blowing up at the time. So I went back and watched it, and weirdly, I didn't find it that funny. It's a very British pop culture sort of humor. Well, not just British pop culture sort of humor. It's very British humor. They move in together to be roommates because they can't afford anything on their own. It's oddly timed in parts, I want to say. Basically, I didn't get the jokes as much as I thought I would, but I really like the style of it. It didn't look like what you'd think a sitcom would look like.
Sure.
So a lot of stuff a lot of it was just shot in the style of a movie. Like Community, for example, did something very similar many years later when they do like an entire episode about paintball, which is shot like an action movie. Spaced kind of started that sort of thing. So that's when I realized that, okay, cool, this is a dude that we should look out for. And that kind of got cemented with Hot Fuzz. Because I feel like Hot Fuzz was when it really came into becoming Edgar Wright's Cornetto trilogy, along with Nick Frost and Simon Pegg,
Right.
obviously.
I think also Hot Fuzz has a more substantial cast than Shaun of the Dead in terms of like big, like heavy hitter names involved, right? And the fact that you can get those names, though that particular cast, to pretty much do everything you want with respect to his artistic style and editing vision and directorial vision.
Again, something I really noticed in Hot Fuzz probably for the first time properly, because that movie is so energetic, right? Like there's stuff going on all the time.
Exactly.
And it's not even really an action movie, but it's made like an action movie.
Absolutely. So I think like I said, that was my introduction to him, and I'd heard the name before. I'd heard that he is all about that particular style, in that you think Tarantino, you think a certain style. You think Spielberg, you think a certain style. He was one of those names that I knew people associated with a very strong directing aesthetic.
Yeah.
But I'd never seen one. And then when I saw Hot Fuzz, I immediately saw where what I had been seeing at the time in a lot of films had come from. Or I saw the best version of what people are trying to do. And I was like, oh, that's how you do it. And that like a lot of using the camera to do the funny work.
Yeah.
was perfected in that film, I thought. And like, not if not perfected, definitely honed in that film and then made better as he goes along. I think that's where, Baby Driver really shines in the fact that the edit of that film is
That's
impeccable.
True. Yeah.
I have qualms with that movie for other reasons, but the editing I can't
You can't fault it.
I can't fault it for anything.
I feel like that's really important. The fact that his voice as a director is funny already. Like Baby Driver, on paper, it's not a very funny movie. No. But there's a lot of stuff that's just humorous throughout, right? And that's the case with Hot Fuzz as well. On paper, it's a funny script, but the way he kind of cuts it, like just stuff like, Simon Pegg taking a train to go to the little town he gets posted to, that it's like a 20-second sequence, but it's so funny, right?
Not even.
Where he just like picks up a plant and then like plonks it down, and now he's in that like small English town.
You know what? The last time we talked about something like this was when we did one of the Brolin episodes.
Of course.
And when we talked about Christopher Nolan, we talked about, a big part of that conversation was about the fact that he is really big on using the movie and using editing in a movie to tell a story rather than let the characters sort of pull you in.
Yes.
He's more about like
that's true.
the nuts and bolts of filmmaking as opposed to
the people
story and the writing and all of that.
Yeah.
So like, I think Edgar Wright does exactly that in a completely different fashion, in a fashion that I actually think prefer, in that one big example we've used a lot when talking about Nolan was the fact that The Dark Knight Rises ends in this giant 10-minute long montage, which tells you how the story finishes out, right?
Yes.
But very little dialogue in that, and just more of like, look at this guy, now look at this other guy who are worlds apart, but they're doing things that are opposing each other or have some unity to them, but they are different things, and the fact that you can now see them as an audience member, you have perspective now. You're like, oh, the fact that he's walking in that door and he's leaving that door, that means, dot.
Yes.
Edgar Wright does that all the time, especially in an example like that. Like when he's, for instance, in Hot Fuzz, when he's first going about his routine, he's getting the lay of the land of the new place. And the fact that you're following this character, you constantly see life through his lens, and you sort of see Simon Pegg's perspective at the new place, but then as the movie goes along, he just does the same routine again and again, and you just like, a little bit more each time.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that the final payoff is the same thing you've been seeing again and again, but now you just know who those old people are in the shop, and you know who that kid is on his bike.
Yeah.
But he's doing the same thing, and he just made it funny. He just hasn't made it like overbearing, which I think Nolan kind of falls into sometimes, and for me personally, it gets a bit boring because I'm just like, you're taking yourself really seriously right now. And Edgar Wright just, I think, has a gentler touch, even though he's just as strong-handed in that this is an Edgar Wright movie from the word go, and you know it. I just gravitate towards him a little bit more.
I feel like it seems like a lighter touch because it's so heavily stylized.
Yeah.
It's not cut to natural rhythms, right? Like Nolan's ideas are usually big and melodramatic, so he takes very classic filmmaking techniques and then blows them up to 100.
Yeah.
Edgar Wright's is a pretty fresh take. It's very music video-like, I want to say.
Yeah.
Because his entire style is, it's very dynamic, right? Because like there's stuff happening all the time.
You can watch a Nolan movie on mute.
Yeah.
You can't watch an Edgar Wright movie on mute.
Yeah.
Because you need...
Because your head would be spinning. You'd be like, what is going on here? There's like 50 shots.
Right. And not to say that makes Nolan movie bad, but his pacing...
Yeah, we're just drawing
films,
a distinction between two
like
pretty different styles.
Nolan just like paces his movies in a big, larger-than-life, grand, slow build, much like why Hans and him kind of are buddies, because Hans is all about that, like...
True.
I'm gonna like just start that crescendo and just keep it going and going. Like literally, Dunkirk is what? It's just one giant crescendo in the soundtrack, right?
Yeah.
Edgar Wright, on the other hand, is like,
I think
the song goes in this groove.
The fact that you mention Hans is perfect because Nolan's style is so conducive to Hans's style, and Edgar Wright uses pop songs because he makes pop movies.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back and go through his various movies individually and then rank all of them. I guess that's the thing we do now.
That's the thing. All right.
Hello and welcome to a brand new and exciting week on IVM. We'd like to give a shout out to our sponsors Storytel and Paytm Money. This week on Cyrus Says, author and poet Jerry Pinto talks to Cyrus about how Bombay has been a muse in his writing, his unique teaching style as a professor, his sleeper hit novel M and the Big Whom, and more. Also, check out the special Q&A edition of Cock and Bull that we did with Cyrus, where me and Amit Doshi sat down and asked him a bunch of questions for an hour. It was a lot of fun. It's the 100th episode of the Pragati podcast. On this episode, the tables have turned. Pawan Srinath occupies the guest seat and Winona Laisram serves as the host. She talks to him about his last decade of working in public policy and recording 100 podcast episodes. On Business Next by Bloomberg Quint, Govindraj Ethiraj talks to the co-author of the best-selling book Fish, Harry Paul. They talk about the importance of a culture of excellence in an organization. On our brand new show, The Origin of Things, Chuck narrates a story of an industrious town, the effect of war and employee benefits before it was cool. Will you be able to guess the brand before Chuck reveals it? Listen in to find out. On What a Player, Akash, Mikhail and Siddharth are analyzing the ongoing World Cup matches and also the trending topics of other sports. On Not Just Dhansak, Perzan talks to Vera Springett about how Parsis exchange food recipes online. On Keeping It Queer, Naveen and Farhad are joined by Mahima Kukreja, who led the bandwagon of the Me Too movement in India. They discuss the movement and its consequences. On Paperback, Satyajit and Racheta talk to Mansi Shetty, the founder of What Are You Reading Today, about her mood-based book recommendations. And with that, let's continue on with your show.
Welcome back to the Geek Fruit Podcast. We are talking about the filmic stylings of one Edgar Wright. Alright, so we've talked about the Cornetto trilogy, but we haven't really mentioned the fact that it's not a trilogy at all.
Nope.
Right? There's some sort of Easter eggy connection in them, right? Other than the fact that they eat Cornettos in all of them.
Do you know more about it? I haven't looked into it.
I've read about it, but it's not a trilogy at all. The commonality is obviously the fact that Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are in all of them, and they wrote them.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't even come up with the idea of it being a Cornetto trilogy until I think it was when the press for Hot Fuzz was happening, and some guy was like, so is this like a spiritual sequel to Shaun of the Dead? And he was like, yeah, it's my Cornetto trilogy, like Kieslowski's Three Colors trilogy, just because he wanted to like puncture the pretentiousness of the question.
Right.
And he was like, so it's three flavors of Cornetto. So in the previous movie, he ordered this Cornetto, and in this movie, he's going to order this Cornetto. And I guess people just sort of went with it. So even they call it the Cornetto trilogy now.
Well, there you go.
It's pretty interesting.
I thought there was more to it. I was hoping you would have more to it. I was like, well,
you knew this already. I'm explaining it for our listeners.
Well then,
because how popular do you think Edgar Wright is? Because I don't know. I feel like he's in the mainstream, but not as much as we think. Because like in the kind of stuff we watch, he always sticks out because everybody calls him out as one of the... I feel like he's a critics director, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? Like he's sort of an inner circle guy.
Right.
He hasn't done he's not done a huge movie yet.
He's the kind of guy who walks away from a Marvel movie because they don't give him what he wants, even though he knows...
Did he walk away or was he fired?
Well, that's the gray area. But I mean, like the fact that like he didn't make a big hullabaloo about such a thing.
That's
and like
true.
he let it, like, I mean, I think 9 out of 10 people, if given the opportunity to direct a Marvel movie, would be like, yeah, all that money, all that
they'd be like, yeah, sure, we listen to you.
I'll do whatever Marvel wants. For the most part.
Yeah.
And he's one of the few guys that would be like, no, I want an Edgar Wright movie. And they're like, no, we want a Marvel movie. Well, then go to somebody else.
The fact that Edgar Wright has such a distinctive style is clearly the reason why he was dropped. And that's why Marvel also, in fact, a lot of bigger blockbuster movies take like your indie directors like a Colin Trevorrow or whoever and kind of put them into the mold because they know that they're basically saying, let us handle
they're like, you're a young buck,
with
promise, you do what you do, but when it comes to the actual nuts and bolts, like you said, we know what we're doing, so trust us.
They're kind of dictating the bigger picture, which Edgar Wright wasn't a fan of.
Yeah.
But he hasn't done, he's done popular movies, but even his biggest movie so far has been Baby Driver, and that's not a huge movie.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say that even though, Hot Fuzz is about cops and guns and, boom, boom, pow, pow.
Yeah.
And so is World's End. World's End is, spoiler alert, it's about
androids,
alien things and such. On paper, you would think, with a plot like that, I could make quite the action film.
Yeah.
His movies aren't that action, but
because it's very niche,
he doesn't need a full-blown quote-unquote action sequence to give you that adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
You just put the right song on, basically, and you give us the right amount of context for us to feel the stakes in the scene. Even if the stakes are as simple as Simon Pegg and his girlfriend having a fight, and he needs to go to a house in time to apologize before she leaves the house.
Yeah.
Something as simple as that. And very, very innocent. No guns involved. But if you just edit it the right way, put the right song to it, and have us invest in the character and feel like, he needs to get there. And if you feel that sense of urgency, you can create that same feeling of heart pumping, holy crap.
Yeah.
And he did that beautifully in Baby Driver. There was obviously more guns and explosions than most of his films, but yeah, right. I don't think of it as an action movie that much, even though it fully is.
Yeah.
It's a pretty damn light action movie.
And maybe that's why it wasn't as... So it's also the fact that he hasn't made, like, say, a blockbuster movie, right? Baby Driver is his most successful film so far. Something like Scott Pilgrim, which is, of course, the greatest movie ever, was a pretty big failure. I think, if I remember correctly, it didn't even make its budget back or whatever. So it was a movie that a lot of nerds and critics loved, but not a lot of people went out and watched it. Which, looking back, is insane, because look at that movie. It's a work of art.
I didn't like that movie.
No, Jigs.
Yeah.
I hereby revoke your title of Master Juggler.
Oh, okay. So
You juggled my feelings
am I
there.
Do I have a bachelor's of juggler?
Yeah, you're a bachelor of juggling now.
Hey.
So wait, why didn't you like that movie? Because I love that movie.
I don't know. I just...
What?
Yeah. I've forgotten it.
You've
For the most part.
forgotten
Yeah.
Scott Pilgrim?
Yeah.
Do you not watch it every week like I do?
Maybe the best way to explain it is heavy-handed.
It
was a little too in my face.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, I really like Edgar Wright, and the cast is interesting, if nothing else. Like, it's a good cast, but if even on paper, I was like, whoa, these people, like, damn, that's weird.
Yeah, it's
but
a pretty.
fun.
And a lot of that cast wasn't even huge at the time, right? Like Chris Evans wasn't Captain America at that point, I think.
Right. No, he wasn't, or he was just about to be.
Yes,
or whatever.
exactly.
But yeah, when I saw it, like, I distinctly remember a feeling like up until, where was it? I think is it the first time you see them playing in the band?
That's right at the start.
Right at the
movie
start.
kicks off with them
or
rehearsing.
maybe the second time. No, when at a concert, when they're at a actual
Let me
gig.
say that I love that movie right from that first scene where you kind of just drop into the conversation.
Yeah, I liked that.
Yeah.
I liked that opening scene. It was interesting because I got that Edgar Wrightiness immediately of like just the way in which it's just fast paced and just like it's a beautiful edit and it's great.
Exactly.
And I was
right
all
into
about
the
it.
credit sequence.
Right.
We are Sex Bomb. 1, 2, 3,
Right.
4. Dun, 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 dun,
I was
dun,
all
dun,
about
dun,
that conversation, all about like him and his roommate and that girl and that whole awkwardness of it. I was like, this is cool. And then pretty much from the next scene where you see all the graphic elements popping up all over the place, I was like, okay, this is weird. But then the fact that it just kept going, I was like, okay, now I can't. Because like it worked for me like in doses, and I thought that was a bit too much for me.
That's interesting.
What I liked about the Cornetto trilogy, is what I thought this was lacking in that it was
this is
overly...
the stylistic elements of the Cornetto trilogy, but amped up to 100.
Right, and I can go back to the Cornetto trilogy because even if I don't pay much attention to his style, just the story of these characters and the way in which they're built and how they revolve around each other was a lot more compelling to me than the character dynamic in Scott Pilgrim, because I thought the character dynamic was washed out by the stylization of it. Yeah, so I was like, I was too distracted by the woo. Right. He's doing funny graphic things.
The fact that when he beats a villain, he turns into coins.
Yeah, things like that. I was like, what?
I thought that was hilarious.
I was like, I'm way too sober for this right now.
Or like when a doorbell rings, you see like a ring made out.
Yeah. I was like
sound effects in the clouds and stuff.
Right. Like if I was fine with it up until a point, and then like I think pretty much after the fight with Chris Evans happens.
Yeah.
Like from around that point on, I was like, okay, now like I've given you a chance. Like I can't do this much more. And that's when it just sort of fell off for me.
So that movie, in terms of, it's almost like a thought experiment of a movie where you go like, what if we throw a ton of style at a pretty simple theme?
Right.
Because the theme of that movie is basically just that Scott Pilgrim's trying to date a girl who's got a lot of baggage going on. Right. And he's trying to basically he's saying everyone has to overcome their baggage to be happy. And that's the concept behind the 7Xs or whatever. But that on paper, that's a pretty standard thing, and quite literally on paper. Like Scott Pilgrim, the comic series, is essentially this. I feel like it's a really successful adaptation because it takes that stylization of a comic book and it's literally a comic book come to life. And I feel like the kind of stuff he did there was so weirdly inventive because the first time I watched the movie, I feel like I just about absorbed the plot, but a lot of the time I was just along for the ride. It felt like a bit of a roller coaster of like, oh my god, what kind of weird transition was that?
Right.
So it was really interesting to me that way. So I find it's maybe the issue you have with Scott Pilgrim is the same issue a lot of people have with Edgar Wright in general. Is this possible?
Sure. Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
I know people who hated Baby Driver because they're like, what is this? Why is the guy going to get coffee and I'm spending 6 minutes watching him get coffee? Because literally the first two sequences of Baby Driver, the first one is there's an entire bank robbery happening, but you stay only on Baby while he listens to that really weird song.
Yeah.
Bell Bottoms. Right? So there's that entire sequence and you're like, okay, cool. You want to start with like a bit of a music video-ish feel. Then they get back to their hideout and then he just like leaves again from where the action is happening, where they're discussing crimes, to go get coffee. And you watch him go get coffee. So it's like, it's 2 6-minute videos, one after the other. So I found that really fun. But I know a lot of people who hated it because they were like, this is some Hindi movie stuff, which is not a bad thing, but still.
Right. No, you're right. It was too much all at once. And the argument always about, movies that are adapted from comics or adapted from books and all that, like I can't, we're at this point now where like those are like a dime a dozen, an adapted film based on a thing, usually these days based on a comic. Giving it points for being accurate to the source material as someone that hasn't read the source material is meaningless. Because I'm just like,
okay, I
know what you mean, but I know what you mean. But just like that part of the conversation which inevitably happens with everything that is adapted from something. Yeah. If you haven't read it, it's just like, that's nice.
So I hadn't read Scott Pilgrim at the time I saw the movie. I'd heard a lot about it because it was a talked about book even at the time. Just at a concept level, the fact that because the concept is essentially, for anybody who doesn't know, that Scott is dating a girl called Knives Chow, but he suddenly is madly in love with this lady called Ramona, who's got purple hair. And he wants to be with her, but to do so, he has to beat her 7 evil exes. Right, so it was a comic book series that was really buzzed about because it kind of became a sleeper hit. And I'd heard about it at a conceptual level, but I just never got around to reading it. So basically I read about the comic or whatever. I never read the actual thing. When I watched the movie, it was so fun that's what made me go and read the source material. And that's what I mean. It captures the spirit of the source material more than the accuracy. In fact, accuracy-wise, it's pretty different from the comic books. But that sort of the feel of the story, I think, comes out perfectly in the movie.
Fair play. Good for him, I guess. That's the thing. It's just like
good for me for enjoying it.
Yeah, it's just like with all these things, it's like that's great, but it's the same argument as like when Game of Thrones brags about like, yeah, we took 55 days to shoot this episode. I was like,
that's
great.
Dumb. Yeah,
you wasted
that's
wasted more than 55 minutes of my life with me watching that episode.
Okay, I've possibly watched Scott Pilgrim. At least, I've wasted a lot of my life on Scott Pilgrim.
How many times? More than...
Not 55 times. A lot of the times, it's also the kind of movie where you can just like hop in and watch a clip. And
I was going to say, I love those movies. I have a lot of those. This is one of those where you can just like watch an isolated scene.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of even structured that way.
Like which one are we talking about which scene do you watch the most?
I skip around randomly. I love watching, for example, the bass solo battle. Which is so weird and so dumb, but also so funny. The fact that they're both bass players and then they kind of just like attack each other with single notes like dum 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 dum. I love that. Do you remember the fight? The actually pretty racist fight with the Indian guy? He's
yes.
Yeah.
I blocked that out. Go on. Just remind me.
He does.
But what happens in there?
He does. He does a very Nagin kind of dance and goes like, you will have to beat me. And he's the first guy. Right. So like his entire thing is, by the way, you do know that thing where there's an Easter egg where all of them kind of represent the number that they have. Like the Indian guy has one eye hidden the entire time, so he's number 1. Another one wears a t-shirt that says 5 or whatever. It's fun. That's another thing about Edgar Wright. That's a good segue into the fact that he throws in Easter eggs into all of his movies, which is important to talk about Because, wow, I'm segueing out
Yeah,
of
like,
this
wait,
into like
where you
something
going?
completely different.
Yeah.
I did. So my thesis is basically that Edgar Wright is a director who's influenced by pop culture almost as much as he is influenced by films.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Go on.
So you have like your blockbuster era filmmakers like your Spielbergs who were basically going off of classic cinema and saying, what if we made that but fun and popular and massy?
Right.
So basically that's how they invented the era of the blockbuster, right?
Right.
So they are very inspired by classical films, but they
Right.
make big fun films for everybody.
Sure.
That like literally you could walk in and you have no idea who Truffaut is, but you love a Spielberg movie.
Right.
Right? Directors like Tarantino as well, and definitely directors like Edgar Wright and James Gunn are influenced by those movies, and a lot of pop culture around the time. So they're influenced by music, they're influenced by music videos, they're influenced by comic books. You don't see like comic book influences necessarily in Spielberg. By the way,
True. I see what you mean.
Spielberg directed a movie that Edgar Wright wrote, Tintin.
That's right. I
Yeah,
totally forgot
that's
about
weird,
that. He
right?
wrote Tintin.
Tell me, do you remember anything about Tintin?
I love Tintin, so I know the story. Now shoes on the other foot.
You love the Tintin movie?
I did not love the Tintin movie, but I know the Tintin comics like the back of my hand, so I know that
Yeah, of course.
story.
Yeah.
And like, I recognize that they recreated
Everybody loves Tintin
the
comics.
I recognize that the movie tried to recreate the panels
Yeah.
pretty as accurately as they could. And yeah, like it was. Have you seen the TV show?
The Tintin TV show? Yeah, which is pretty much just the comic book.
Basically the comic
Yeah.
book. But very important to note, one of the best friggin' theme songs.
I know.
Just
It's
incredible.
so good.
It's like a John Williams theme song.
Yes.
Like it could totally be a
Is
John
it actually
Williams.
John Williams?
I don't think so, but
Okay.
it damn well could be.
It's so dramatic.
It's epic.
And
I
even though,
never knew
yeah.
I never knew Tintin was that epic. Like
I know, right?
Like I loved that comic, and then I saw the TV show and I heard that theme song. I was like, man, this guy's a badass. He's
I know.
not. He's a Belgian
not.
journalist with a cute white dog that gets up to trouble. He's basically Scooby Doo but with no friends.
Yes.
So like Tintin is great, but then that theme song
And
kicked
Snow
in.
is smarter than him.
Yeah, as is the case with Scooby and the gang.
That's true.
He's the only one that's not stoned. He's on edibles.
Yeah.
That theme song. Anyway,
Oh,
great
it's
theme
such
song.
a good
So,
theme song.
back to E. Wright.
Yes.
So yes, when it comes to the Tintin movie that he wrote.
He wrote it with someone, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyway, go on.
with respect to that, and in the vein of what you were saying about Scott Pilgrim, I thought that it was very accurate to the source material, and so like it checked off boxes
Was
for
it?
me.
Because it was a completely different story. They got the characters right, but they put them in some like weird situation.
Not completely different, but yeah, like little.
I really struggled to
small
recall most of that movie. I watched it when it came out. I had a lot of fun. I remember there was one
It was
incredible
distract-
sequence
Yeah, go
where they're trying to get away from a castle or something at the top of a hill.
Mm-hmm.
And they run out into a jeep, and then they kind of drive down the thing. And it's a single shot. I mean, it's an animated movie,
Sure,
so
sure.
not that it's.
It was a mocap thing, right? Because Jimmy Bell.
It was a mocap thing, was
something
it?
to that
I don't
effect.
remember. It was very
Anyway.
photorealistic, the animation.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, it was a virtuoso sort of sequence where
Right.
the camera just follows them from the top of the hill all the way down on a
Right,
chase sort of thing. So I remember that, but I remember very little about what actually happens in the movie.
I think you have the same beef with this as I had with Scott Pilgrim, which is that
Right.
yes, it was very accurate to the source material, even though they changed the story a little bit. The feeling of the Tintin world was pretty solid. But you're right. I also wouldn't be surprised if you don't remember too much, because they were just very heavy-handed with the fact that, hey, we have this amazing new VFX technique to make things look really pretty. Mm-hmm. Let's do that. What story can we put to that? Oh, that Tintin book is pretty good. Let's adapt that. So
Yeah.
they get a great writer to adapt it. He did a solid job of adapting it. But clearly, the point of making this movie was to show off this fancy new technology, and therefore you can't remember much about the movie because it was just like, people have read the comics. There's a TV show which is freaking great with the best theme song ever. So who needs a third iteration of that unless we can dazzle audiences with this shiny new thing? Which is why I don't think they alluded to making the sequel.
To Tintin?
Yeah, because
Oh.
it is a 2-part story. Secret of the Unicorn and then Red Rackham's Treasure, like they go hand in hand, and like it ends.
Right, yeah.
That movie ends as the book does, with him finding the chest and be like, oh crap, now we can go off and
I remember none of this.
exactly right. It's a big cliffhanger which falls flat because you didn't care that much about the characters because they were just too busy making the characters look pretty, which they did beautifully, but that wouldn't sit with you because you can't hold on to a beautiful visual like you can holding on to a character that you actually care about and want to see more of. So I think it's a very similar problem that you have with Tintin as I have with Scott Pilgrim. In that I can't remember the story all that much. I do remember this incredible color palette, this incredible, visual stock style and all this stuff.
But I love the story of Scott Pilgrim as well.
No, sure. I love the story of Tintin.
Okay. I guess we're at a crossroads then, Jishnu.
All right.
Cool. Let's take a break. No, we're going to take a break. We'll come back and let's do quick hot takes on all of Edgar Wright's movies and then closing thoughts.
So polite.
India's a massive subcontinent home to truly stunning diversity. Behind the veils of smoke that obscure our thriving cities, our history is still alive, glimmering like sequins, waiting to be discovered. And if you, like me, are straining to hear the echoes of our past, this podcast is for you. I'm Anirudh Kanisetti, a history and geopolitics researcher, and I host Echoes of India, a history podcast about India, by Indians, and for Indians. In Echoes, we journey through the complex histories of South Asia and what they can teach us about our globalized world. Tune in every Wednesday on ivmpodcast.com or your favorite podcast app.
Welcome back to the Geek Fruit Podcast. All right, Jishnu, I'm going to chronologically talk about Edgar Wright's movies and then we'll just give our opinions on them.
He's got a lot I haven't seen. A lot of his early shit I haven't seen.
I think you have. So his first movie was A Fistful of Fingers. I said A Fistful of Dollars, but obviously that's the original thing that he was referring to.
Yes.
No. A Fistful of Dollars is like a Clint Eastwood movie or something. It's like a famous Western.
Oh, there you go.
Right? That's what A Fistful of Fingers is referencing.
Okay.
So it was, I haven't seen it, and I don't know if there is an easy way to see it. I don't know if it was ever widely released.
What year was that?
1995.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but yes, it apparently had a lot of the hallmarks of the style he would go on to be known for. His first major movie was Shaun of the Dead in 2004.
Hang on.
Yes.
95, you said?
Hanging on. 95, yes.
I believe the guy was born in 74.
Okay. Yeah, that means he was like 21 when he did this.
So was it like a student film?
Let me see.
Probably.
Wright made his feature film debut in 1995 with a low-budget independent spoof western, A Fistful of Fingers.
A feature film?
Yeah.
Wow.
Picked up for limited theatrical release and broadcast on satellite TV channel Sky Movies.
Wow.
Huh. Despite Wright's dissatisfaction with the finished product, it caught the attention of comedians Matt Lucas and David Williams, who subsequently chose him as the director of their Paramount Comedy Channel production Mash and Peas. Wow, this boy was an early success, huh?
Yeah, damn.
What a prodigy. What have we done with our lives, Jishnu?
Damn.
We talk about Edgar Wright, is what we do with our lives. Anyway, so he did a bunch of television work and stuff, I assume, after that. But his first big movie was Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead we've talked a little bit about. I will say the one thing that surprised me about Shaun of the Dead as I was watching it was how quickly it turns into a pretty good action movie. Like the last sequence where they're just fighting off zombies, it's legit good action.
He nailed the zombie movie for me.
Yeah,
because,
that's true.
I've gone on record many times to say, like, with examples with like Walking Dead and stuff, like I tapped out around season 3, 4 and change.
Yeah.
And I just generally like, when it comes to like world-ending apocalyptic scenarios, I find zombies one of the more boring ones because it's very two-dimensional in terms of what is the problem at hand. It's just like, dude's gonna eat you. And if you kill them, they won't stop eating you. Okay, so how do you get out of it? So that's kind of boring. And I love the fact that he was just like, zombies can be fun because zombies are fodder for us to create action sequences. Let me build a world that you're invested in with characters that are great. And then let me just throw in a zombie sequence because people love zombie sequences and it worked. He said a solid Don't Stop Me Now was a great choice for that moment. True. Great scene. And then the zombie problem is just like, we just need the characters to find closure and then zombies. So which is great rather than being like
zombies.
Which is rather than like trying to find a justification for zombies and doing like a World War Z movie or something like that. It was just like, how far do I have to like suspend disbelief for this to work?
Yeah.
Because you can't justify zombies. But then again, we're the kind of guys that cry over superhero movies. So a bit of preaching to the choir. But I thought that he did one of the best jobs with zombie movies you could do.
That's true, because the thing, why it reads as a zombie movie is because he parodies tropes in the sense that he's coming from a place of love, man. Like, you can see that this guy loves zombie movies.
He knows
and
his-
of course the guys who wrote it. Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
So Shaun of the Dead both is obviously a parody of stuff like Dawn of the Dead, but also it's a legit very good zombie story by itself. So it's making fun of the thing. Like, if I draw a parallel with something like Zombieland, say, Zombieland is pretty much an out-and-out parody of zombie movies, right? There's no real like zombie story that is in the classic mold of a zombie story. Like, a large part of the climax of that movie, spoilers for Zombieland, by the way, is landing up in Bill Murray's house. Right? It's so random. And I really like that movie, but it basically functions like the Airplane or like the scary movie of zombie movies.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas Shaun of the Dead is a legit good zombie movie.
But the difference, which makes Shaun of the Dead far better than Zombieland for me, even though I had fun watching Zombieland, but I don't. The reason I won't remember Zombieland, and I don't, is because they try to bring you into the world of the zombies from the word go and be like, they want you to know what the stakes are on a global scale with regard to the fact that there's going to be this giant problem that you're going to be faced with, and you have to see how our heroes, who I'm now going to introduce you to, will have to deal with. Whereas Edgar Wright does it the other way around. He's like, let me introduce you to some guys, and you as an audience member will know that something is going on, but because they don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
And then eventually when they know, it's pretty blindingly obvious, which makes sense, because if it is like a random example.
Yeah.
Let's say SARS was a real, like, actual thing that
What?
exploded, right? I said random and I meant random.
Okay, yeah.
Right? Let's say if that was a real thing that just like went crazy, right? You wouldn't know that it's a legit problem because like people like talking about random disease breaking out happens every couple of months, right? But because shit like that happens so often, you don't really pay that much attention. Like, like it'll eventually die down. They'll find a cure. But so it would have to be too late for you to realize, oh crap, SARS. Damn, son. So, in that vein, the zombie problem, they didn't notice the zombie problem until it is genuinely unavoidable.
Yeah.
But in Zombieland, they're like, hey, let me tell you about why these zombies exist and yada yada blah blah blah. I don't care about these people that have died. I just know that they're dead people that are now undead. That's cool. And then the fact that it kind of makes...
One of them's Bill Murray.
It kind of makes the story, the main plot, your B story. If you know what I mean.
Yes.
So like in Shaun of the Dead, the B plot is the zombies.
Yes.
And they don't really matter until like 50% or more of the way through. Not 50%,
Okay.
like 40-50%.
Jogs, you're basically saying more or less the same thing that I was saying.
What?
Where, you're saying that the B plot becomes zombies, and I was saying that Shaun of the Dead plays as a straight zombie movie as well as a funny zombie movie. Whereas
It's not a straight zombie movie.
It is a straight zombie movie.
I think the fact that the zombies are a B plot makes it not a straight zombie movie. A straight zombie movie is, oh my god, like Independence Day. Independence
I see
Day
what you
is
mean.
Like as a monster movie, it's like Independence Day starts with scary things happening. Oh my god, we don't know. Let's meet our heroes, find out who our heroes are. Heroes meet the scary thing, and then heroes have to defeat scary thing over the course of the movie.
So, for example, if you took all the genre tropes out of Shaun of the Dead, it's still a good movie about those characters and those settings.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah, it's a good comedy about these people that are funny and do stupid things.
That's
and
true.
Boy meets girl, boy fights with girl. We want them to get back together. Friends are goofy and stupid. And now insert zombies. And they're not, and because you know these guys, you know they can't be Will Smith who will save the day. They're not going to be Bill Pullman who's going to fly his ship into the mothership, right? All you know is they just need to survive. And that makes them heroes. If our heroes can just survive this, that's all we care about. You're not invested in this because of like, how are they going to defeat the zombies?
This is literally the case with all three of those Cornetto trilogy movies. So we said earlier that there's not really a through line, but they all follow more or less the same structure.
Yeah.
We started with like regular guys,
they're just
regular stories,
they're
very
CBS's
English
friends.
settings, and then suddenly... androids are suddenly aliens, are suddenly like murder cults.
Absolutely. Which is why, when he does the action scenes in these movies, it lands because I give so many Fs about these characters.
That's true.
I'm not going into this movie because I want to see how is he going to handle the zombie, how is he going to get his characters out of the zombie problem? It's more of, I want to see his characters.
Yeah.
And there happen to be zombies in it.
True.
As opposed to, it's a zombie movie, how are we going to defeat the zombies?
You juggled your way very well in that argument. Okay. Next up was Hot Fuzz, which you've talked about in some detail.
Yeah.
But again, action movie tropes and this whole like cop movie thing done so well.
Yeah.
And again, a movie that really takes you by surprise when you figure out what's going on. So that kind of puts you in the shoes of someone like Simon Pegg's character.
Yeah.
Something Darling? Darling, basically. Everyone just calls him Darling. But yeah, you're kind of always along for the ride with the guy who's typically Simon Pegg, in the Cornetto trilogy at least, who's playing the lead. And you're just like, what is going on here?
I think it's a great, for lack of a better word, office dramedy.
Yeah, it's kind of officey.
Especially the opening bits before he gets sent off to the little village. You meet everybody in the office, right? In a quirky Edgar Wright fashion, but it's basically take away the fact that his job involves guns and danger and all that. He's just clocking and
then
clocking
he's
out.
sent into like a little place where the highlight of the day is somebody's birthday and they get cake.
Right, exactly. So like it, you just subtract the like I said, the guns and the danger involved with the job, and everything he does, the routine that he does, is mundane to everybody else. He takes it super seriously, which makes it ironic, which makes it funny, yada yada. But
he's super fit in everything.
Yeah, but I think in both is it in London? Yeah, he's in London at the beginning, and then when he moves to the new town, you get to meet everybody in his office to sort of see his ecosystem and see what he's like, where he thrives, and just then see how he gets challenged just as a person.
Yeah.
Right? And then halfway through the movie, you're like, oh, there's some weird shit going down. Thank God our protagonist...
Some weirdly violent stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Like the sequence where one of those guys gets murdered by a falling spire from the church.
Jesus.
Oh my God.
It's
I can't
great.
get that image out of my head.
It's great.
It's so weird and comes out of nowhere.
But what I love about it is the fact that it's not only weird to look at and think about giant spike falling off it, but like how does it disrupt this guy's life in the fact that he is so but you disrupt his life when you've seen over like 45 minutes how routine he is, and like how like methodical he is with everything, and how like such a creature of habit he is. So it's not only the fact that it's a murder and that's terrible and spikes falling on people's heads are a bad thing, but it's also the fact that you're disrupting this dude's normancy, which even though he hates having moved to this village, he's found a routine in a shitty situation. He's he's found the silver lining. He's like, cool, this Nick Frost guy is not that bad. I can live with him. It's annoying, but I'll do it. And he finds his rhythm. And then seeing his rhythm get disrupted is what makes it gripping. Yeah. And then insert murder cult.
Cult.
As opposed to, here's a guy, I'm on a mission. What's my mission? The murder cult. And then 90 minutes of solving the problem. That's not that great.
So he's a good storyteller.
He's a great
about
storyteller.
situations and people. And he managed to combine that with this massive love and knowledge of pop culture. So I think, cool. We kind of figured his secret out. We should make an Edgar Wright movie. Okay. Next up, of course, he did Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the best movie of all time. Everybody knows that. Then there was The Adventures of Tintin, which he wrote. Then there was The World's End. What do you think of The World's End? Because I'll tell you what.
Yeah, go on.
It's probably, for me, my least favorite of the trilogy. I love it. It's really good, but I think I only ever saw it the one time, and I think it's fine. In many ways, it's kind of like, it makes sense at the end of the trilogy because it's all about, him, like Simon Pegg's character, trying to figure out who he's going to be going forward. Like, there's a very definitive sense of, I'm not going to be a man-child anymore at the end of that movie that feels final in a way that the end of Shaun of the Dead or Hot Fuzz doesn't.
Right.
So, something of an emotional closure for the protagonist.
I'll totally give you that. I agree. The emotional turn that the protagonist takes in that one is the most compelling of all of them. In that, he's learned the most in that movie than he has, assuming Simon Pegg is, assuming he's the same person in every movie. He's grown the most in that one.
So let's say that basically in the other two movies, the rest of the world kind of figures out how to meet Simon Pegg halfway.
Right.
In this one, Simon Pegg realizes, wait a minute, I'm a bit of a dick. Right. And I've got to figure out things.
Which is cool. It's the empire of his movies. It's it's the Dark One, it's the Last Jedi, it's the whatever the hell. But I agree with you. I do think it is the weakest of the three. Not by too much, though, because I only think it's weakest because of the ending being a little too out there for me.
Yeah.
In your vein of your Scott Pilgrims, of just like, I was with it. Spoiler warning, we're going to get into it.
Yeah, sure.
So I was with it when the androids showed up and, they're bleeding blue and all that other crap. This is cool. This is vaguely like your murder cult thing.
Yeah.
Works for me. It was just that very ending, the very the final 10 minutes. Like I was all with it with regard to how the characters turned and how each one of them, realized different things about each other and yada yada. They all grew to love each other again. All that was great. It was just a little bit too over the top for me with regard to having a conversation with the god voice of the aliens and all that. I was just like, you didn't need to go this far.
It's a little nutty.
You have budgets now, that's nice and all that, but it's not necessary. The story about the alcoholic and his friends was far more compelling to me than the story about the androids and the human species, because Shaun of the Dead worked because they didn't really answer the zombie problem. They didn't answer the question. It was just a matter of like, hey, get my lovable characters home safe, please. Thank you. And he did. End of movie. That's all I want. Are they safe? They're good. That's all I need to know. This one, he was trying to answer questions that we were obviously thinking about when you introduce android races and stuff. But this movie is not Independence Day.
Yeah.
It's not Alien. It becomes Independence Day and Alien for the last 10 minutes.
And it seems like a bit of a sudden left turn, right?
It is. He didn't stick the landing with just regard to my sense of closure.
Exactly.
Like Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz worked because he pulled it, he reined it in right at the right time. He let it run away with itself enough to be like, oh, adrenaline pumping, holy crap, what's going on? And then he pulls it back just enough time for us to be like, oh, right, yeah, it is just about these guys and they're good and they're happy. But then this one got a little out of hand. But that being said, it's like, it loses by a hair for me.
Yeah,
I still
just
really
by
love
a hair. And
it was my favorite character dynamic of all the
Did
movies.
you watch This Is the End, which again came out about the same time?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
What do you think of that movie?
I've seen that at least twice.
Really?
And I still can't remember
It's
all that
such
much.
a random movie.
It's pretty random.
Yeah.
I was in it for a bit and I was like, this is cute and amusing, but then
it's a bunch of jokes strung together.
Yeah, but then same deal. It gets so big. It basically did what Game of Thrones and Lost did.
Right.
In one movie. It condensed that what WTF all the way through, and then you're just like, I stopped caring. And then you give me an answer and no answer is going to satisfy me because I just don't care anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So after that is the famous incident where he got kicked off directing Ant-Man, but he retained writing credit.
Which is good.
Which is good. I still really like the idea of Edgar Wright doing a Marvel movie, but I totally get why it happened.
Do you think we've probably talked about this? I'll put money on we've talked about this, but I forget because that movie came out so long ago. My favorite thing about the Ant-Man movies is Michael Pena. Mm-hmm. Favorite thing about Michael Pena is his
storytelling
his
thing?
monologues, which are amazing, which scream Edgar Wright.
Yes.
But did you not tell me that is actually a Peyton Reed
It is.
thing?
Yes.
Are you certain about that? Because that is so Edgar Wright, it's not even
I know.
funny.
I'm not certain about it. In fact, I don't think I'm the one who told you.
Maybe?
I
Okay.
know we've talked about it on the show before, so it was probably Tejas who mentioned it.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a Peyton Reed thing apparently. But yeah, it's very Edgar Wright.
So did he just did he just save the page that Edgar wrote and was like, no, this will keep?
No, we'll keep this maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very Edgar Wright thing in the sense that it's a highly stylistic device. I'll tell you why maybe it's not an Edgar Wright thing. It's because it's not wildly inventive or anything. It's Drunk History has been doing it for years at this point, right?
Sure.
So it's essentially the Drunk History gag.
But
I feel like Peyton Reed going let me do something Edgar would do and take this gag that exists.
Right.
Whereas Edgar Wright has always done weirdly unique stuff. You know what I mean?
I mean, I thought
This is a weird argument to make. Who knows what happened?
I know it is, but it is. But what the two things that do it for me that every time I see him just go this has to be him.
I know.
The
It
two
feels
things
like that.
is the music choice.
Yes.
The music choice for sure. The fact the musical cue is much like that Mission Impossible striking a match, and then it goes into that thing. And two being the fact that all the characters say the words that he's saying.
Yes.
Which is hilarious.
Which is the Drunk History thing, of course.
But I was just like, that seems opposite. I don't know.
Who knows?
I love
Whatever.
that movie.
The fact is that Peyton did kind of nail the style that Edgar might have gone for, I suppose,
Maybe,
is the best we can say. But yeah, shame we'll never get to see his version of Ant-Man, which was, I think, also story-wise kind of different because there were some rewrites.
Okay.
Most of the script was the same, which is why he's still credited as a writer, but whatever. We will never know. After that, of course, was the famously divisive Baby Driver. Mm-hmm. So, it's a weird trend I've noticed.
Yeah.
Everybody in India, as in basically people like us, hate that movie.
Really?
Yeah. Because it feels very Bollywoody to them.
Sure.
Like a masala movie, you know what I mean?
I didn't hate it, and maybe because I
really enjoyed it.
Maybe because I don't watch Bollywood movies, so that
Maybe.
saved me.
I watched a ton of Bollywood movies and I loved it.
There you go.
It's I get what they're talking about. It's kind of over the top. It's very music led, and a lot of it is just choreography.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I kind of love it I love that.
Yeah, fair play.
And it's so weird. It's like ridiculously weird. It's a good movie. It's a shame that Kevin Spacey is such a big part of it. And now I can't look at Kevin Spacey without going like, ugh, he's actually a total asshole. But yeah, anyway, that's a good movie. Let's close out by talking about what you think. So he's not a very... he hasn't made a ton of movies. This is like what, 5 or 6 movies essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where should he go next, do you think? Like, what would you like to see from Edgar Wright? Because I have some thoughts.
Tell me your thoughts.
I would really like it if... I feel like he's kind of started to make... I know what to expect from an Edgar Wright movie now.
Mm-hmm.
And what I really loved about, say, Shaun of the Dead when I first saw it, or a lot of movies that he does, is the fact that they're constantly surprising to me. So I would love for him to try something a little out of his wheelhouse. Like Baby Driver is also essentially... it's that same, like, okay, here's a protagonist who's got like some weird issue where he's kind of... he's regressed into a shell of some sort. So in like Simon Pegg's case, sometimes it's the fact that he always goes to the same pub and has a drink.
Yeah.
And in Baby Driver's case, it's the fact that he just like puts on headphones and shuts out the entire world. Right? And then the movie becomes about how, through various plot machinations, they get out of that shell. Right? So like in Baby Driver's case, it's the fact that he can kill everybody and... Oh my God, spoilers for everything. Anyway, they get out of it using some plot mechanics.
Right.
I would like for him to try something else, like maybe do something with a big ensemble cast, or like do...
I was just thinking that,
right?
Ensemble, but technically his
I mean,
movies
Baby
are
Driver
all,
is an ensemble cast.
All his movies are pretty freaking ensemble.
Yeah,
They're all
like Baby Driver
around
is a
one
stacked
guy,
cast.
but
John Hamm is so good in that movie. I thought he was killer.
But I take back the ensemble thing. Like, I was thinking about that, but I realized I feel like his movies basically are. Even though it's all around one guy, the ensemble is incredibly important.
I guess I mean in the sense that like maybe do a movie about a group, maybe do a movie with kids, basically something different. Surprise me, Edgar.
Kids would be fun. I would love to see his take on like the Stranger Things aged kids. So like, you know, early teens kind of a thing, or even younger a little bit, like 10 to somewhere like a 10 to 16 bracket. I don't know.
What if you did a movie about like a female protagonist? I feel like just that alone would be interesting.
Oh, absolutely.
Because his movies are very like man-childy.
Male-centric, yeah. Fair play. That would definitely mix things up. But I was also thinking about if you do have kids, that could inform the manic nature of his style.
That's true.
What the reason I liked Baby Driver, big reason why like I love a lot of James Gunn stuff as well, is because he makes the music live in the world with a good reason. It's not like random example of carpet bombing Bollywood, just saying like, oh, and now it's dance sequence. Why? Because dance sequence. His music, for the most part, is informed by the story. Yeah, it's like this belongs here because the zombies have invaded and somebody hit the jukebox with a baseball bat. That's why the song is playing. And therefore you feel like it's cathartic because like, yes, that song is in the room with them. They're hearing it. You know they're hearing it. They're reacting to it. Baby Driver, obviously, gimmick. Yeah. But I would love to see, get kids high on sugar and then go into their heads and see how they see the world and like, what kind of...
Yeah.
I feel like
there's so much
it's a lot of fodder to play with if you insert kids and like
an
let
ensemble,
them have their fun.
Now that you mentioned James Gunn, an ensemble movie like Guardians, where all the characters are kind of crucial to the entire movie, though there is a clear lead. Yeah. Maybe something like that. Maybe do a rom-com. I don't know. Just do something. Like something a little different.
I feel like he's already doing rom-coms.
Is he?
Like Shaun of the Dead, I kind of feel like is rom-com.
Actually, yeah, you're right. Anyway. I don't know, man. I mean, obviously, I have no idea what he's going to do next.
Do more things.
Except it's a movie called Last Night in Soho, an upcoming psychological horror film. Oh my God, that's perfect. Whoa. That's a left turn.
He should make
Human
Centipede 4.
Yes. Let's say that's what you want him to do.
Yes.
Do you want to rank all his movies?
Human Centipede 4, where instead of butt and mouth, it is left forearm, left palm to left underfoot.
Left palm to left underfoot?
Right, of the person in front of you.
The human ring?
Yes. Human centi-ring. Human ringapede. Human ring.
I meant to rank all his movies.
What you said. No, let's do this. This is more fun. So, left forearm.
This has been the Geek Fruit Podcast.
The left foot.
You can
right forearm.
Reach out to us.
Right foot.
Why don't you guys rank all the Edgar Wright movies for us?
In the second movie, there was a baby.
Because clearly we're never going to get to it.
The baby was born in the movie.
You can talk to us on all the social medias at GeekFruitHQ, and you can email us at contactgeekfruit@gmail.com.
If you did Saw, it wouldn't
Bye, you nerds.
Hi, my name is Anupam Gupta. I'm B50 on Twitter. I am the host of Paisa Paisa, the show that talks money. On my show, I speak to experts from every field of money and finance, from stock markets, equities, debt funds, credit cards, life insurance, every possible area of money and finance that you can think of. We even did an episode on cryptocurrency. I've got fantastic guests from mutual funds to personal finance experts everywhere. Robo-advisory, startups, just name it, we've got it. At Paisa Paisa, we help you make smart decisions about money. You work hard for money. Now make your money work hard for you. New episodes out every Monday, and you can listen to my show on the IVM Podcast app or any other podcasting app that you have.
Did you know that Parsis in Mumbai, instead of being left at the Tower of Silence after they die, are now cremated? And why? Because a cow fell sick in the early 1990s. Did you know that the smog in Delhi is caused by something that farmers in Punjab do and that there's no way to stop them? Did you know that there wasn't one gas tragedy in Bhopal, but three? One of them was seen, but two were unseen. Did you know that many well-intentioned government policies hurt the people they're supposed to help? Why was demonetization a bad idea? How should GST have been implemented? Why are all our politicians so corrupt when not all of them are bad people? I'm Amit Verma, and in my weekly podcast, The Seen and the Unseen, I take a shot at answering all these questions and many more. I aim to go beyond the seen and show you the unseen effects of public policy and private action. I speak to experts on economics, political philosophy, cognitive neuroscience, and constitutional law so that the insights can blow not only my mind, but also yours. The Seen and the Unseen releases every Monday. So do check out the archives and follow the show at seenunseen.in. You can also subscribe to The Seen and the Unseen on whatever podcast app you happen to prefer.